In this video, we're going to go over how I made this Bioshock inspired diorama. This is a little bit less of a tutorial on how I did everything and more of just kind of sharing this craft. I really hope you enjoy it, and I had such a blast building this. Without anything else to say, let's dive right in. Starting off with just a drain cover and a PVC pipe from a hardware store, we cut out the center of the drain cover to fit our little tunnel in there. Then from there we moved on to using the Proxxon hot wire cutter to cut the foundation for the tunnel out of foam and making sure the cover fits on. Then after cutting a piece of chipboard to the same size, we're using sprue clippers to cut off the outer ring as well. Now for that back piece, I carved a tunnel for a light effect to come down through and to fit the pipe in there. For the bottom section, we used some straws to look like pipes, and we're going to use hot glue to attach those as well. And this is going to be covered in Mod Podge mixed with black paint. It's going to take a few coats, and this is just to firm up the foam and prepare it for priming, which took several layers in order to get a nice solid black. But once we did, we're able to cover it in, again, several layers of just normal gold craft paint. Now the gold was a little bit bright for me, and I started looking at concept art, and I found really nice copper pipes all over the place in this game, so I decided to use some fur on all of the metal that was gold in this build. I really love the effect. On the pipes themselves, they were a little bit dark for my liking, so then I went in with a dry brush again of an even brighter gold to really bring out those details, just going across the top of the pipes to bring out the details. And for the actual tunnel itself, I used a red oxide paste, which you'll see here in a second, because I couldn't get any paint to stick to the gold that I spray painted all of the non-foam effects here. And again, just hot glue to glue these two pieces together. I'm not going to mess around with any kind of super glue on foam. For the foundation and other parts here that our tunnel is going to attach to, we just did the same 3 steps with the black Mod Podge, gold, and then fur. For the backdrop here, I have some backsplash metal sheets that I'm going to cut off with construction scissors. These are just heavier duty scissors. And we're just going to use chipboard to go behind this. Just tracing out what we cut out is better than trying to get exact measurements. We spray painted the backdrop black. And for the metal sheet, we are going to hit it with a brass. It still didn't show up quite the way I wanted it to. So after the brass, I went in with a really heavy brush of bronze. I was really starting to like where we were going with it, so then I added some Ryza rust. Absolutely love this stuff. For the backdrop, I just continued to add white, gray, and dark green until I was happy with it. You aren't going to see a lot of it though once we cover it up. And then for the sides, I just did the riser rust with a little bit of Hellion green to add a little bit of patina. I wanted them to be a little bit different than the back. And then just again, hot glue. For the vines, I did florist wire dipped in Mod Podge and then dunked in foliage. And then here we are using some oiled earth wash by Mecha Colors. First project I've ever gotten to use this in, and I fell in love. I used this all over this build. And in order to flesh out the scene a little bit more, I just added some more clump foliage by Woodland Scenics with a 1-to-1 mix of PVA water. Now here we get into the tile work. I traced out where I was going to cut off the tile, and then using some tile cutters, I snipped off everything. Given how fast this stuff juts off, I didn't record this with my camera. Once we have all of that in place, I used some PVA glue to get a real good firm foundation for that to sit on. Same with the tile. I didn't record this, but I cut out some holes in the bottom to add just some hardware piping and a place for the lights to go up through. This is plexiglass. You can buy it at the hardware store, and it comes with a neat little tool for scoring and snapping. It's a really, really cool, clear material to use for builds like this. Really easy to work with too. And this is a clear silicone caulk that we're just going to spread all over just one side of it to kind of give a underwater look. So it's like we're on one side of the glass, and outside we can see the warping of the water. I went to attach the plexiglass to the build, and I realized it wasn't tall enough, so then I added this metal frame so I can attach 2 pieces vertically. And I really liked that, so I wanted to add some more of the metal framing, and I went ahead and did those out of foam though, because they don't have to actually hold up the structure. And to paint these, we went ahead and used Mod Podge and black paint on the foam, again to toughen it up and prime it. But then this was just a gunmetal from Game Color. And when gluing these in place, I definitely would recommend gluing them in their final location rather than trying to perfectly measure out the angles of the wall and everything. And these are just glued on with PVA glue. And then to add some texture and depth, I went ahead and hit these with the oil wash and rust effects again. Just using the silicone caulk again, it's a very strong adhesive, and I also use some super glue at the top of this build to get the top portion to stay into place as well. For all of the grout, we just use some concrete and 1-to-1 PVA water mixture, and we're just going to spread it all the way in there. Not trying to be too neat, but we also can tidy this up at the end. And once that dries, we're just going to hit it with some Agrax or a shade, darken up all of those grout lines. And just adding more rubble in here, super gluing rocks, then adding some texture paste on top of it. And then again, we hit that with the shader. Again, this oiled earth really, really fit into the scene well. I just put this all over the place, randomly. For the back, you won't actually see the ground, but in case some of it ever is visible from the angle, I added some sandy bottom. And then I hit this with a brown and a black wash to tone it down a lot. And for the plant itself that you can see in the background of the build, this is just an aquarium plant that I cut some of the leaves off of, and we're just using PVA glue to glue this in place. And here's the Big Daddy after he's all painted up. and we're attaching our light. I didn't record painting the Big Daddy, I just kind of did that in my spare time. I didn't want to record everything. I already had a lot of footage for this build. And here you can kind of see some more of the details that I added, like those posters, as well as a second gate that's falling over that we're going to add some more foliage to. Just locking everything in with scenic cement. It's very, very watered down PVA glow. And those posters were just stickers. And then I 3D printed off this Uventit machine, but after looking at the scale, at some pictures of the game itself, it was so far off, it was not even worth using. I did, however, add a pipe into the background there, and there is a rock that I don't know if is very visible, but it's just there to hold it in place while it dries. It's a piece of cork. I might turn that Uventit machine into something else in the future. I was really proud of it, but it just didn't fit in this build. And this is it. Very, very fun build. Definitely took me out of my comfort zone using all these construction materials I had laying around the house for a crafting project, but I had a lot of fun with it all together. And if you have any ideas for my next build, let me know.